Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Today on the podcast, I have a very special guest, Gretchen Smith. Gretchen is the founder of my favorite veterans charity called Cota Vets. She's an amazing woman who took her passion for helping military veterans and built a powerful grassroots organization. She is a living example of the Lisa Haisha quote, "Great leaders don't set out to be a leader, they set out to make a difference." Gretchen is an unstoppable force who is making a real difference in the lives of veterans. Leaders, I'm so excited for you to hear this interview. This is what true leadership looks like. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Gretchen Smith. Gretchen is the founder and leader of Cota Vets, a military veterans charity that is focused on helping veterans in need. She is a passionate leader that has rallied thousands of people around the country to help veterans in crisis. She's making a real difference in the lives of veterans. In my mind, she's a living example of what John Maxwell says, a great leader's courage to fulfill their vision comes from a passion, not a position. So I'm excited to talk to her today. So Gretchen, welcome.
Thank you for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Cota Vets. What motivated you to stand up and do something about veterans in need?
Well, I've always been incredibly patriotic. I am a veteran. I served in the Air Force. So that's always been a part of my heart and soul. However, the inspiration of Cota Vets is my dad, 100%. He was my hero. He served in Vietnam. He was a airborne infantry combat vet, and he came back from the jungles a different man, a broken man, a shattered spirit. And I sat down and had a conversation with him as an adult. And he told me, he said, "Gretchen, I left a piece of my humanity back in the jungle." He said, "I feel like I left my heart and soul back there." He never did find peace, John. And I lost my dad to his battle with PTSD back in 2005. And I always have carried him in some of the conversations that we've had in my soul and spirit, and just can't get him out of my mind. So I wanted to do something to honor his life, to make sure that, he had a legacy. I wanted his death to matter. And so I started a Twitter page to honor him as his daughter, and as a veteran as well. And sharing his journey, his experiences, and it exploded. It resonated with many veterans from the get-go. They shared their journeys and said, "Hey, Gretchen, I walked that path your dad was on, or I'm currently on that path as we speak." And it quickly evolved to, "These are my needs. Do you know of any resources of what I can do?" And so I quickly became a nonprofit. It's been a grassroots firestorm since day one. Dad, again, is the inspiration and my drive. I wake up every morning excited to do this because I truly believe if a brother in arms would have sat down with my dad and said, "Hey, Danny, hey, brother, what's going on? Let's fix this together. Let's do this together." I believe my dad would have had a different outlook on life. He would have reached out his hand. And so I want to be that hand. I want to be that veteran to reach out and say, "Hey, let's do this together. Let's see how we can fix your situation to make it livable." Because we have so many of our veterans here wanting to die who can't take that step forward.
Right. Well, and the one thing I was thinking as you were talking is that there's lots of charities that support the veteran community. So why do you think the Cota Vets was needed, and what makes Cota Vets so unique compared to other veteran charities?
I really believe I found a niche in the veteran community, and it's a much needed one, John. Okay. I operate strictly on social media, and a lot of our veterans isolate themselves at home. They don't work, or if they do work, they go to work and come right back home. They have just wrecked the lives of their families or kept their families at bay because of different issues, my dad, he kept me at bay. We had a very distant relationship and he did it intentionally to protect me because he was so unstable. So we have many veterans out there doing the same thing as my dad did. So social media is a great way for us to reach out to veterans in the comfort and safety of their own home or wherever they happen to be living, in a cabin or whatever. And it's just a great way to reach out your hand and say, I'm here for you, brother. But they feel safe at the same time because they're in their own environment. And you can slowly walk with them and reintroduce them to life using social media as a tool initially. And that's what we do behind the scenes is while I'm raising funds for them to stabilize whatever crisis they're in, behind the scenes, my partner and team and I are working with them to reintroduce them to life, baby steps, one step at a time. And that's what is unique about Cota Vets.
Right. That's very good. And again, I think the social media angle is, I don't see anyone else doing that. And so I do see that you have, you've created that influence. You can reach out to people where they're at, right? Versus,
exactly,
versus physically, you're getting there electronically, right? In which, of course, we're all in this coronavirus situation where we're all talking to each other electronically nowadays, right? We're connecting that way.
Yep, that's right.
And you're using social media for good, which is a really positive story in and of itself. And I appreciate that. One thing, I was looking at your 2019 financials, and one of the things you prominently displayed on your website, and last year, 99% of the money that was raised by Cota Vets went to veterans. Only 1% went to operating costs. Why is it so important for you to be transparent about what you raise, and why do you keep your operating costs so low? Why is that important to you?
From day one, I set out on this journey to honor Dad and to help veterans. And it never has been about money for me. It's never been about a paycheck. And I committed to myself and my audience, which was really small at the time. But I made it clear up front. This is about veterans. It's by veterans. It's for veterans. It's about us. It's generally just a simple grassroots, informal network system across social media to help as many veterans as possible. So I wanted to be different than the average veteran organization. I am in the fact that I operate purely on social media, but I wanted another difference. And I don't want a paycheck. Right. I want veterans to know this is genuine. This is heartfelt. This is not about somebody getting rich off of their backs, because I feel like we have so many businesses and orgs out there doing that. Or it's just a paycheck, or they are enriching themselves. It makes me sick to my stomach. I don't want anybody making money off of my dad's death. I don't want to make money off of my dad's death. For me, it's blood money. For me, it's about saving lives. It's about giving veterans hope, and it's about giving them a second shot at life. So the funds that we raise goes directly to the veterans. Do we have operational costs? Absolutely. I live in the real world, but I'm very frugal. I try to keep it as minimal as possible. And I'm proud of that 1% operation cost. I think it's a huge feat. It almost killed me last year. Last year was our first full year as a 501c3. And I brought in almost $800,000 and only 1% was operational costs. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes on the way. We've learned so much during our first year. So this year is going to be a little bit easier. I won't have to work quite as hard because I know what paths work and what doesn't. And I'm still figuring that out as I go, but I've learned a lot. And I think this year will be even tighter, even more successful, because I made those mistakes in that first year. So Cota Vets is unique in the fact that we don't want paychecks. My partner, Dr. Cindy Walter, she's retired. She worked hard in the public health sector. And she has her heart and passion for veterans as well. So we make a good team. We're a fierce team because we run lean, and it truly is about veterans.
Well, and again, I think people are willing to or want to more donate to a charity or be part of a charity that is, the money, where they know where the money goes, right? And I think that's been part of my frustration over the years is I'll learn, I'll be giving to certain outfits, and then you find out later that, hardly any of that money ends up going to the people that are supposed to benefit from it. So I appreciate you being transparent and also, really focusing hard on trying to get the resources to the veterans, the people that really need it. And I really appreciate that personally. So
I think a lot of our donors really do appreciate that. There's no middleman. We have a very brief, quick application process. We vet the veteran, and then I raise the funds, and the funds goes directly to the veterans. There's not a long process in place. I can raise funds and send it in a matter of hours or 1 day or 2 days. So that's unique in itself. I don't know.
It's remarkable.
I know.
Yeah, I know. It's remarkable.
It's a miracle.
This is an audio recording. You can't see me shaking my head, but I have a hard time believing how quickly you can respond to veterans
Literally
in crisis.
This morning I took care of a veteran in a matter of like 9 minutes. It's just, it's amazing. It feels so good. And I emailed him and I said, I've sent your money, and I sent a list of what I sent the money for, and I asked for receipts, and he's already emailing me his receipts, but literally I did it in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
And his response was OMG. And, he's been homeless 3 times. We vetted his story. It's real. It's true. And, he's a vet in need and crisis. And we secured him this morning, and he's just overwhelmed by it. He said, I have no words.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. That's great. So let me switch gears here a little bit and talk about passion a bit. So I wrote an article, and I had this quote from Lisa Haisha, and she said, "Great leaders don't set out to be a leader; they set out to make a difference." And in my mind, you're living that. You're a living example of that. When you set out on this journey, did you imagine that you would become a leading voice for veterans online? And did you realize at that point that you'd be leading this army of passionate volunteers? I mean, what's that been like for you to realize? I mean, have you realized, or do you realize that you're a leader of this movement?
No. I literally am a stay-at-home mom in Middle Tennessee. I see myself as a nobody, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but
right.
I never imagined myself in a leadership role ever, because I am so emotional and passionate about whatever I do. I'm high energy. I had no idea Cota Vets would grow in the manner it has. I did not know I would be a voice in the veteran community. I'm not saying I'm a huge voice, but I am a voice. And I'm floored by it. I'm humbled. I'm excited. I'm so proud of myself for doing this because it's something pure, something genuine. There's no hidden agenda. There's no paycheck. It just literally, it's my passion. And I feel like my passion has built something powerful for veterans. Like I said, we just took care of a vet in Killeen, Texas this morning in a matter of minutes because of that passion I have. And that you know what? That's something to be proud of. And the quote you stated, I did not set out to be a leader. I just wanted to make a difference. Those are my words. That's literally who I am. That's my heart. That's my spirit. I just wanted to create something that mattered. I thought it would be on a much smaller scale. John, this is just totally unbelievable.
Yeah, I know your meeting. I've been following you for a while now, and just seeing you interface with like Larry the Cable Guy, or Charlie Daniels, or you're meeting all these, really influential people who also support veterans. And I bet you didn't imagine that in your future as well.
Goodness, no. I'm like, I'm a nobody. What in the world am I? I sat down and had dinner with General Flynn and his wife, and with Mark Osgeist from Benghazi, and the business manager of Charlie Daniels. And I was just floored. I was like, what am I doing here? I mean, it was amazing. We had a beautiful conversation, but they all love what I'm doing with veterans. They see the passion. And that's what the appeal is for Cota Vets. It's just a genuine passion. It's simple. There's nothing else to it other than let's take care of each other. Let's see what we can do to raise some funds and get some veterans secured. And that's Cota Vets.
I love it. That's great. It's so pure and it's so focused and it's based on passion, and your father being the inspiration. I think it's all very straightforward and clear. In a world today where everything seems to be muddled, that your mission is very clear, and I think that's important for leaders as they're leading organizations. That is your mission, crystal clear, and your mission is and your vision is crystal clear. I think to everybody online. So.
Yes, I agree. I've stayed the course. It's tough to navigate on social media, but as long as you maintain the course on the mission, everything else falls into place, or it will fall away, because we're taking care of our own one veteran at a time.
Right.
It's been consistent from day one, and that's how we operate. And I think people respect that I have not veered off course.
Right. Yeah. Your mission statement can be stated in one simple sentence. And I think we in business tend to get complicated with our mission or vision statements. But if you can say it that succinctly, we're taking care of veterans we're taking care of one veteran at a time. I think that's very clear, and everybody knows what your mission is and what your focus is. So you mentioned this. You mentioned making some mistakes in the first year and having some challenges. So what have been some of the challenges that you've had to overcome as a leader as you've gotten this business off the ground?
Okay, so one of the challenges for me personally, on a personal note, is I'm an incredibly emotional person. I'm very trusting. I especially since I've been a stay-at-home mom, I've lived in a pretty tight bubble. And when I started Cota Vets and it exploded, then I invited all of these people into my life across the nation. That's social media. I'm like,
right.
So initially in the beginning, I was believing people at face value of who they were and their needs. But I quickly learned, I needed a professional with a skill set that I didn't have, that didn't lead with heart in that area. That, we needed a leader that was rational and had the ability to vet veterans.
Right,
and that was my particular weakness. So that's where God literally placed my partner, Cindy, into my life. She messaged me quite a few times. I eventually messaged her back. We had a conversation. She sent me her resume, and she had been assisting veterans for years, since 2004. And it was a beautiful fit. The woman is educated. She's a bulldog. She's a no nonsense, rational person. Whereas I am 100% emotion, 100% heart driven. And so we make a good combination because we both have our strengths and weaknesses. So we play off of each other very well. And that's what we needed in Cota Vets. We can't just have all heart. You have to have some rational, you have to have some kind of, thought process of, hey, not everybody who says they're a veteran is a veteran.
Right.
So she's taken that piece over for me. She vets the veterans for me. And she's the one who creates their case plans through Cota Vets and walks with them. I will help veterans, with prayer requests, that kind of thing online. So that was, for me, that was a challenge and a weakness that I learned. That was a big one. And just for me, I think I haven't really grasped where I'm starting to we do have a broad reach, and Cota Vets is getting out there, and I do have a great reputation. So another thing I've learned over the past year, when I give somebody support and attention online on social media, specifically Twitter, it gives that person validity. And it gives so I'm learning I have to be careful when I informally interact online, that I'm not given a scammer or someone who's trying to take advantage of me or my good reputation that I've built in order to gain something for them personally. And I've run into that probably 5-6 times this past year, which you got to think about, I interact with thousands of people, and, so I was taken advantage of a handful of times. It was very disheartening. Each time I just was crushed because, again, I give each individual my heart and my time and my energy. And when I find out that they're not, what they say they are, who they say they are, I take it incredibly personally, because this is a personal journey for me. This is not a business for me. This is a journey of saving veterans, of giving them that second shot at life. So that's another valuable lesson I've learned, is that I need help behind the scenes, even on an informal basis. Cindy can't handle all of that. So she's doing the formal piece of it for when we financially, support somebody. She's the one vetting them. But when I'm out on Twitter, doing my thing, just, zipping around, I've got to be more cognizant that I do have a great reputation and I am known out in Twitter world, and people will use that.
Right. Well, I know too, the other thing you have is an army of people that will back you up and support you if someone does try to take advantage of you. I've seen that as well too. The armies of Twitter supporters that you have are loyal because they know your heart's in it. They know that
it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see so many people. Yeah,
they come to your aid quite frequently.
They do.
I love to see that. So
I do too. I feel like they have my back.
They have your back, absolutely, because they know that you have veterans back, so they have your back, and I see that loyalty, and that's it's interesting. if you look at some of the statistics, it says that if a leader is if an employee trusts their leader, they're 12 times more likely to be engaged as an employee. And while these are not your employees necessarily, but people on Twitter, your followers, the people that are supporting Cota Vets, they trust you because they've seen you in action, and they're definitely engaged when someone comes after you, or there's a scammer or what have you. So I think it's beautiful to see that, but I think it's part of who you are as a leader, that they trust you, and you built that trust up with the people that are supporting Cota Vets. So I think you built that. I don't know if I want to call it emotional capital, or I'm not sure what it is, but
there's an emotional investment, not only from me, but on the part of the followers, the team, and the donors. We all have an emotional investment in Cota Vets because it is so pure. And I think what you said earlier just really resonates with me, that that's lacking in our nation. We need good, we need light, we need purity, we need hope, especially, in these divided times and these uncertain times. When we have a beacon of light out there, we need to protect it. And I'm very protective of Cota Vets, John, because that's what it is. It is a beacon of hope for our veteran community.
Yes. You're Mama Grizzly, as I call my wife sometimes.
Oh, don't mess with my veterans.
Don't mess with your veterans. My wife says, don't mess with my boys.
That's how I feel about it. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Thanks for listening to Deep Leadership. We'll be right back after a brief intermission.
Hey, leaders. If you're anything like me, you drink coffee to power through your morning. But what about in the afternoon? For me, I start getting a little sleepy and unfocused around 2 p.m. So I like to do something to get me recharged and refocused. I've tried a bunch of different energy drinks. I've even tried that stuff that's supposed to last 5 hours. Most are expensive and cause you to crash later in the afternoon. I was introduced to a really good product by a fellow veteran. He told me to try Strikeforce Energy. Strikeforce is a veteran-owned company founded by a Navy SEAL, and their products are all made in the USA. Strikeforce Energy is a liquid flavor pack that you can add to any beverage. It has 0 calories, 0 carbs, and 0 sugar. Each pack contains 80 milligrams of caffeine. I actually add 2 packs and a liter of water in the afternoon. I get my water, my energy, and the great taste of Strikeforce throughout the afternoon. I personally prefer the original flavor. Strikeforce Energy is offering a discount to all the listeners of Deep Leadership. Go to strikeforceenergy.com and enter the discount code I have the watch, one word, I have the watch, for a 20% discount on your order. Strikeforce Energy, fuel for your fight. Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit. So, obviously, I've been a leader for 30 years, and leadership is not easy, right? Sometimes you're, alone. You're one person against, like you said, you're fighting this battle. You're passionate, but so. A friend of mine, Mike Irwin, he's the founder of Team RWB, which is a great veterans organization as well. But he said that leaders need to lead themselves first. And what he means by that is that they need to have time alone. They need to be able to be physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong, to be able to stay motivated and to stay in the fight. So what are some things you do to lead yourself first, or to be able to make sure that you're staying healthy to be able to lead this organization?
I am so glad you brought this up, John. And I think this can be of great benefit to anybody who's thinking about, starting up a business or nonprofit. My first full year, I gave 150% of myself to Cota Vets. I lost myself in Cota Vets. I lost track with my family. I set aside my gym time. I lost myself. Because what happened is it took off so quickly, and I was initially alone. I didn't have a partner or a team, that I was so overwhelmed that I literally worked from the time I got up until the time I went to bed. And there were days I would not even eat. That's how, I dove into it, and I took it so seriously because there were lives at risk. We had, I was dealing with some suicidal vets, with homeless vets by myself. And it took time for me to realize you can't do this alone. You can't save the world. You can't save 20 million veterans. and that's when I started thinking rationally. I'm educated. I have 4 degrees, but when I started this, I never realized how quickly it would grow. And so I was proud of it. I was like, oh my gosh, I've created something that's powerful. It matters. And I could not, bring myself to take time for me. Right. So this year, starting in January, I did take the first few weeks off this year, and I didn't do as much with Cota Vets. And I even said it. I said I'm burnt out. I don't know if I can keep this pace up. And I got some great guidance. I even called Jack about it. Jack Riggins, and both a mutual friend of ours. And I just had a discussion of, I can't do all of this. So I learned so many life lessons, even at my age, through Cota Vets, through this first full year. And I'm in such a better place already. I'm going back to the gym. I'm taking care of me. I'm eating healthy. I did the vinegar challenge with people on my private Twitter, on my personal Twitter page. It was fun, but I also wanted to share that journey of, let's get healthy. It matters, not just as veterans, but as Americans. We need to be fit mentally, physically, spiritually. It all matters. We're holistic creatures. So I've definitely stepped back a little bit from Cota Vets. I'm not obsessing over it as I was, because there is a solid foundation under it. People have seen we've had a great first year, and the second year is going great already. I'm just amazed by the donations, even though we're just in these unstable times. I have learned, as a leader, that if I do not take care of myself, I can't help another person. Yes. If I allow myself to become so exhausted, so malnourished, I had lost the weight and I really didn't even need to. But it was a lesson for me. I had to find balance, and I'm still working on that. And but I'm in a much better place than I was, and I'm proud of the progress I've made. And I'm looking back, and I'm hoping that as I share some of these, little experiences I've had, that it helps somebody else. Maybe they won't go through that like I did. They'll say, oh, got to take time out for yourself. That it's important, and it's crucial to the mission to be healthy on all levels.
I'm glad that you talked to that, because I think, especially now with, the coronavirus situation, is that we have a lot of leaders that are stressed out. I was on a video call Friday with a leader in the Raleigh area that he looked it. He said, I'm exhausted. I've been, I haven't slept. I'm trying to make sure all my people are taken care of. And he was just really stressed out. And I think we, it's the airline analogy, right? Put your mask on first so you can help others. And I think it's the same analogy. We, as leaders, have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And if we don't do that, like your experience, you start to get to the point where I think you even said I lost myself, right? You get too carried away with trying to help too many people. And I find myself in that situation too, is that you have to have that downtime. You have to have the me time, right, to be able to strengthen yourself up to make sure you can be in the fight longer. So that's really good to hear that the second year you've taken that to heart, and you're making that a part of your journey, your personal journey now, which is really good to hear.
Right. Yes, I'm in a much healthier place this year.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So what are you most proud of as a leader as you look back in the past year with Cota Vets?
We have so many stories, and I could go and we can, if we have time, I can touch on some of them.
Yeah,
but
tell us a few stories, because I think that's I think it brings a face to what you're trying to do, because it's not just veterans, it's one veteran at a time, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not. Yeah, we take one veteran on, we solve the issues, we walk with them, and then we move on to the next one. And that's been incredible. That's why we have to stay grassroots, John. We have massive veteran orgs out there, and I don't want to be a massive org. I want to have a lot of influence, because when I do share the stories, I want to be able to solve them in a matter of minutes, hours, and then move on to the next veteran, and then have a team that we have that team in place behind the scenes that can walk with that veteran and continue with them. But anyway, some of my most memorable moments with Cota Vets, and what I'm most proud of, is, some of our suicidal cases. We had a veteran named Ray, who lives in Gadsden, Alabama, who is a combat veteran struggling with PTSD, and ended up homeless for a variety of reasons. He got hooked up with Cota Vets with Cindy and I, and we had conversations with him. We cried with him. We worked so hard to try to get him, stabilized. And it was, he was his case was complex. There were some legal issues involved, but he was actually a great man with no criminal history. It was just this one-time event. And, I had broken down. Cindy and I had got on the phone and talked, and she said, Gretchen, if we don't figure out a solution, we're going to lose him. She said, in 48 hours, he'll be gone. He'll be dead. And I agreed with her. He was suicidal. So I got a phone call from a vet in Gadsden, Alabama, who owned, some pizza restaurants. And he called me all excited talking, and here's me boohooing. He said, okay, let's stop. What's going on? So I told him, I shared the story. And he said, you know what? I'm only an hour and a half, 2 hours from this veteran. He said, have him come to me, get him some gas money. I'm going to give him a job and get him a place to live. And let's see what we can do. So fast forward a year, almost a year later, and he sent me a picture, John, Cindy and I, a picture of this veteran taking a pizza out of the oven, working at he's been there for months now, almost a year. They're going to be making him a manager at one of these, they're opening up new restaurants. They're really growing rapidly. He's going to be making roughly $60,000 a year. So going from homeless in his car with no hope, broken, lost, not a penny to his name, to making, $60,000 a year as a manager with a family-run business who absolutely love and adore him. They are veterans as well. They've embraced him. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story of what Cota Vets is and who we are. I'm so proud of that. And I've got so many stories to share, but that one just really touches my heart because Ray is here because of us, because we all came together. And we shared the whole Cota Vets family across the nation. There's 224,000 of us, and we're growing quick. But they shared his journey, and and Kevin gave him a job, and now he's set. His future is stable. That legal situation he was in, because of the stability we provided for him, they're going to be dropping the charges because they see that he's in a stable environment. That's the power of what we're doing. Yes. It's changing lives one at a time.
That's phenomenal. That's a great story. That's so good to hear. And I was thinking, as you were talking, you mentioned your father being the passion of this, or what started Cota Vets, and here you are saving a veteran, right? You're doing exactly what you set out to do when you started Cota Vets. And
I'm making Dad proud. I know he's watching from heaven, and I know he's saying, "You go get him, girl."
That's great. Oh, that's really powerful. Wow. And so I think it's easy, when you hear your story and you hear the kind of impact you're having in people's lives, you can see where your passion comes from, right? You're saving lives literally by the work that you're doing, and you're making a difference. One person making a difference, and of course you have an army now. but and by the way, a blue check on Twitter, I should say.
Oh my gosh, isn't that exciting?
I was really proud of you when I saw that. I just
thank you.
I didn't. Think,
I was giddy.
So you're legit now. You're totally. I think I tweeted to you. I was like, I finally know somebody with a blue check on Twitter.
And trust me, I'm a nobody, John. This is just so amazing. I mean, I really see this as a veterans platform. I don't want this. This is not the Gretchen Smith show. This is not my way to get rich. This is literally a platform for us to share our journeys, our stories, and to take care of each other. That's, this is definitely not about me. I'm just so honored to do this. For me, my paycheck is Ray's story. And there's so many other Rays out there, so many other stories. That's the paycheck there. I feel like $1 million with each one of these veterans we secure in life.
Well, I think, and I'm kind of going off script here a little bit, what I was going to talk about. But one of the things that I realized too is if you have passion, right? If you're motivated by something you truly care about, then you're able to overcome obstacles and you're able to get over setbacks easier, right? Because you talked about your first year, there were scammers, there were things you didn't know. There's you personally, you put maybe too much of yourself into it in the first year. But you had a passion, and that got you through whatever obstacles. I mean, I would imagine that there's not too many obstacles that they can get in your way at this point, right? Because of you.
No, Exactly. I stayed the course. I have a strong faith. God pulled me through that. I had my dark moments because what I was doing in the beginning is I was taking each veteran's, I would say their backpack, their load, and I was taking it on to myself. I learned I can't do that. I cannot take on other people's load, but I can share it with the world through social media, and I can lighten that load for them, and I can be there for them. So I've learned so many solid life lessons through this. I think the second year is going to be even more phenomenal than the first year. And I wouldn't be here where I'm at without making those mistakes, without falling on my face and saying, okay, that doesn't work. I cannot take their load for them. I literally can't save them, but I can be a moving force in their life for positive, and Cindy and I can guide them towards a path of stability. That's what I can do. So I have to take care of myself. So there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that are coming together for me now that I feel more confident. I feel secure, and I feel at peace. I kept saying, oh my gosh, I can't do this another day. And I would put that out on Twitter. I'd be like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This is so, I'm empty. I am so empty. But I'm learning now that as long as I take time for me, and I let others use their skill sets, meaning vet the veterans, make sure everything is, legal and, who they are, and just, take one day at a time. I'm in a great place. I feel great. I feel strong. I feel confident. I've got this. I can really keep moving Cota Vets along because I feel secure. And I've learned a lot of lessons. Will I make mistakes this year? Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, we all do.
But I'm taking the lessons I've learned from last year, and I think I'll have fewer obstacles.
That's great. I love to hear that. So I'm going to wrap up, get close to the end. So my last question to you, I've been asking to all my guests, in your opinion, what are some characteristics of a great leader?
I think humility. I just think having a passion. I just think when it's not, the leadership is not about you, when it's about the people, that's what makes you a phenomenal leader. And when it's, I don't want people to talk about Gretchen Smith. I want them to talk about the veterans and the veterans' stories and their journeys. That's for me, that's being a successful leader, is for them to talk about our mission when they talk about Cota Vets. So when the leadership, I want, it's great to lead, but you got to have your mission and your people in the forefront. That's how I view it. It's, for me, it makes it more powerful. And it makes people, I think they're more respectful of me because they know my heart and they know it is about the veterans. It's not, I don't want to be rich and famous. I just want I want Dad to know that he mattered and that I'm his daughter, and that, he something good came from him and something powerful. And that's me and Cota Vets. And so for me, I'm hoping that makes me a successful leader. And some people will look at that and be like, oh my gosh, those are great qualities to have. In business, it's, for passion, for it to be genuine, and it should be about the people and it shouldn't be about one person.
I love to hear that. Humility, passion, the mission, the people, but it's all about people. And I love to hear that because that's my tagline, that leadership is a people business. So
it is.
And I believe strongly in that. And you,
I do too.
You live that every day. And it's, that's why I was excited to get you on the podcast, because I think you're showing the world what it's like to lead with passion and having a singular focus towards taking care of veterans. I think is very clear. And in a world, like I said, which is kind of muddled, you're not muddled. You're very clear what your mission is. And I love that about you. So
thank you, John.
So how can people learn more about Cota Vets? How can they get involved? How can they donate?
Well, I'm primarily on Twitter. We do have other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and we have a website. You can join to be a volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers. We're growing. Our vet needs forms that are on our website. If we have any vets out there that are in need, please fill it out. We will get to you. But follow us on Cota Vets. That's where we're growing our army. We are a social media army. We're digital. General Flynn is just so phenomenal. He coined the phrase digital soldiers. And I do consider myself a digital soldier. I'm a warrior for veterans. And that's where we can come together. We can use our numbers online in historic ways to take care of each other and to be efficient and effective. So I just encourage people to follow Cota Vets, to share the mission, to share these individual vet stories as I tweet them out and post them out, and bring more donors to us. The more funding we have, the quicker we can take care of these vets and get more veterans through our system. I love it. I'm proud of it. It's grassroots. I'm going to keep it grassroots. We'll never be a huge corporation. The operational costs will always stay low as long as I'm running it. And this is just something that we can all embrace and take ownership in, John. Every single veteran owns a piece of Cota Vets. It's just a way for us to take care of each other, and it's a platform to share us.
I love it. I love it. So, for those of you listening, I will put links to Cota Vets, to their Twitter page, to their website, on the show notes, so you can find it and you can connect with the Cota Vets. And especially, you're primarily it's veterans taking care of veterans, but if you're a non-veteran but you're patriotic and you want to support veterans, you can go there as well. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We encourage all of our patriots, all of our Americans who love our military veteran community and want to honor in them some way. This is such a beautiful way. Even if you don't have the money to donate, you know what you can do? You can retweet. A retweet is free, it's simple, but it's critical to our mission. And the more retweets, the more you share and it gets out there, the more effective we are.
That's so good. So good to hear. So good to hear. Well, thank you, Gretchen. I really do appreciate your time today.
Thank you, John, for having me. Thank you for sharing Cota Vets.
Well, I love it. So leaders, hopefully you took away a lot of lessons from this discussion with Gretchen, and you can see that with passion and persistence, you can achieve amazing things. And Cota Vets is really growing, and again, grassroots, but taking care of veterans across the country. So thank you, Gretchen. I really do appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, John.
So that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.